So day 4, which actually I merged with day 5 for reasons that we will see later, is Nadine Portage to, turns out, Moose Junction, which we'll get to. But on our map now, if I can change, here we go. So we've come up the Petawawa, portaged across to the Nipissing, and now we're heading back towards Cedar Lake. So our intention is to camp here at this junction of, I guess, 3 paths, something like that.
We've been told by the rangers that is actually a decent site for a portage campsite. So, and you can see that the 2 days that we're mainly paddling, so this day, which is down the Nipissing essentially exclusively with a couple of small portages, and the day 2, which is from Catfish to Burnt Root, those are substantially longer as the crow flies, right? Because the paddling doesn't get interrupted, and we can just
cruise along, right? And again, I mean, we're with the flow on the Nipissing, but the flow isn't substantial, so it might have given us a bit of a boost, but nothing serious, I wouldn't say. Okay, so this is early morning at our Nadine Portage campsite. Again, I think I was up first, and I got the fire going. Here you can sort of see what you were talking about in the last video, with how we're sort of on the edge of a wooded area, but you can look out across more marshy land. Here's the trek up, which is quite a steep sandy path down to the river itself. But all that marshy land out there, I think we finally settled on the idea that maybe this was once a larger lake that over time just filled in with sediment and then was started to be reclaimed as sort of marsh grassland type area.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you can see how with this view, even though it's not over a lake, you can see a decent distance, as we were saying in the last slide set. So, and nice little swimming hole at the bottom of that sandy bit.
Yeah, it was nice and sandy there, but not like filthy mucky kind of thing. So you could walk out of it and you were fine. This was the day that you woke up and broke your sunglasses. And for the next 2 days, you canoed with duct tape wrapped around your nose piece, like a proper Algonquin Poindexter. Well done, sir.
Like a pro.
Like a pro.
There's an issue with buying cheap sunglasses because you either lose or break your sunglasses. They break very, very easily. So I dropped these from like a distance of 1.5 feet. And they broke.
There you go. C'est la vie, as they say.
What's that?
What's that?
What does that mean?
The French have sort of a word for this. I don't know what.
I don't know what it
is. So after our breakfast, we packed up and started to hit the road, and you can see in front of us now, this is sort of what it looks like. This isn't actually at our launch. We'd launched, and then after about 10 minutes, you needed to pull over and whiz, and that gave us the opportunity to take that video, which is very brief.
How are you enjoying the mighty?
Looking back up where we came, for some reason we flipped around, or am I wrong?
Huh?
Which way are we going here? Which direction?
Many moose tracks, so few moose.
I think we're still going downriver.
Yeah, but which way is downriver?
Front, isn't it?
For some reason, I think we flipped around to go pee, and that way's downriver, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure we would be able to figure it out unless we see the sun anyways.
Moss always grows on the outside of trees.
That's true.
So
The Pope shits in the woods.
Pope shits in the woods. So west.
Good.
Good. Lo and behold, on this day, we also come across river otters, which I assume are now hunting us.
In packs.
Yeah. Fortunately, you're the guy who has to raise the paddle for these. They're behind us here.
They followed us for a while.
Yeah. They did. They were playful, though, in their following. We also came across some geese at one point that were too stupid to fly up and over us, and we just chased them down the river for like a half hour.
Yeah. Birds are stupid.
Birds are dumb. It's like they're bird brains or something.
Yeah, and as you're saying with the lake, especially in kind of you can even kind of see it on the map, right?
Mm-hmm.
That second day, you can see the depressed area in blue there.
Yeah.
And yeah, very, very meandering river. Really could have done with some shortcuts straight through some of these meanders that would have saved about an hour.
Like there are points where it literally comes back on itself. Yeah. Right? It's like we're reversing direction and then reversing direction again.
And lots of alders on the shore, and every now and then a patch of like white pine, but mainly, like you said, marshy lands, alders, probably lots of waterlogged area through all of that.
Lots of deadheads. Lots of Grateful Dead fans.
Yeah, they must have had a concert here once.
Uh-huh. Then they got on that wacky tobacco and ended up stuck in the Nipissing.
Yep. And they turned into fish fans and then into fish.
There you go. Crayfish even. So basically we meandered our way for a couple hours here and then ended up it was at this dam that we portaged, and this was the first time I'd seen a crayfish in the whole trip. But it turned out, and I don't know why I didn't take a video of this, but at night at our campsite, we ended up seeing a bunch of crayfish, and I was trying to fight them against each other and stuff.
You were trying to push them out into the medium-sized minnows.
That's it, so that the minnows would eat them, yeah.
Circling them.
Too funny.
Playing with nature.
Yeah. So this is our first portage of the day.
Yeah, very non-portage day. 3 short portages only.
Yeah. And I think one of them maybe that was the next day. We didn't actually portage per se. We just sort of ran it, right? Yeah. But yeah, very, very calm, dark water, tea-colored water. And the landscape was very different. It turned into a lovely day. You can see the nice bright blue sky here.
Yeah. No rain.
No rain. This was at the bottom of that portage. We did a little bit of fishing out in this. There was actually a campsite. So that campsite that's on the map there was sort of across the bay, but I don't think it was easy to get into. And there's a note here that says that the riverbank has eroded. But basically, up at the top of this portage, there seemed to be another campsite.
Yep.
And that's where we pulled up and had our lunch.
Yep. Was lovely. And there was a third campsite second or third campsite along the south bank of the river. You can see it there.
Yeah.
But there was a little path between the 2 campsites too.
So that's how you get to that one then.
That makes sense.
There's not an easy way here to sort of put your boat in and pull your stuff out, right?
Yeah, I had assumed that there was a back entrance, but then never saw one, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I got some cord. Someone had left some cord there, so Algonquin.
Algonquin giveth. Yeah. So we fished out in here for a little bit, hooked bottom, but nothing else, I think.
Really, our best fishing was that one day fishing the pools up the Petawawa, and nothing else too successful to speak of, but that's okay. We had some good results that one day.
Yeah. So where's this one? I think this is at the next portage, but I'm not sure. It's either this one or the following, obviously. But I think it was around this point where we saw a couple of wasp nests as well, just sort of hung in the trees alongside the river.
Yeah, that was interesting. Big ass.
Big ass wasp nest. To which you said, "Hey, you want to go over and hit it with a paddle?" And I said, "No, I don't. I would prefer not." Too funny. These pictures, this one I think might have belonged earlier when you were visiting.
Definitely earlier.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure about that one. This one I think is...
I think the middle one kind of belongs with the, not far off the right one, but the left one has to be either substantially earlier or later, because the left one it's got to be near a portage, because that's the only times you ever saw that kind of wood, or at least
campsite,
later.
I think.
Say again?
I think it was at a campsite, wasn't it?
That makes sense.
Isn't this, maybe this was at the cruddy campsite? But I can't remember. Or maybe it was, yeah, I don't remember. So these pictures are for somewhere along that river.
And then, yeah, somewhere before where you've circled, because where you've circled is where we met back up with Mr. Murray,
Right.
Murray.
Yep.
And we sat there for a little bit, and we also showed him how to find mushroom.
Yep.
And that guy had the highest bear hang that I've ever seen set up in that. It must have been 30 meters high. He had to have done some sort of loop-de-loop to get it up there.
He said he had a rock bag or something, right? So he'd fill his bag up with rocks and then tie that and just whew.
He would use his throw bag for his canoe with rocks in it, is what he said. And so, whoop-de-doop-de-doop, like that.
Yeah.
And so we, in that portage especially, we'd picked some before, but in that portage especially,
Got a lot there.
So many chanterelles.
Yeah, but we also found an awful lot at our campsite.
Yep.
And it turns out that the campsite that I'm referring to is not the one we were intending to stay at, because as we approached it, there was a bear. And and I said, "Bear!" And it started running immediately. We both saw it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Wait a minute. Are we camping on the right side of the river?"
You first said bear. You had seen it. I looked up. There it was, like right next to the campsite sign.
Mm-hmm.
And we only had a few seconds of sighting because off it went, scurried into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, "Yes, nice sighting." And then he said, "Which side of the river are we camping on tonight?" That's the keeper of the map. I said, "Yep, that's our campsite."
To which we decided, no, that's not our campsite. So rather than stay here where we knew there was a bear, we thought, let's go further down here where there's only a slightly smaller chance of there being a bear.
The same bear wouldn't have been that far away, but probably not hanging out. And you got to think that the bear was going to be hanging out not far from that campsite for a bit of time.
Yeah. So we paddled down here, and when we arrived, it was sort of a steep embankment up, And
There's
at the
no
top, it was filthy. It was wrecked. So not a
Tell me-
good campsite.
Tell me what it was. It was like just wood strewn everywhere, or because I didn't.
No, there was like old barrels that were sort of broken apart with garbage in them. There was junk thrown around up there, it looked like. Although this campsite down here that we eventually ended up staying at also had garbage left there
Yeah.
in the fire pit, fortunately. So we just lit a fire on top of it and tried to burn the shit out of all of it. So it wasn't going to attract anything. But that might then also explain why there was a bear back here, because we didn't explore that campsite, but the next two had trash in them.
Yeah. It's odd because we didn't have that anywhere else.
No.
And yeah. Yeah. But I think we need to add the quote, bear, comma, nice sighting, comma, which side of the river are we supposed to be camping on?
YMCA. Anyway.
But so we were a little bit late, right? Because we had planned on pulling in. It was a relaxed day. We spent a lot of time hanging with our buddy who told us. I had heard about this before, but remembered it slightly wrong. But there's the Brent or Canoe Lake to Brent and Back Challenge, which is
Insane.
very long canoe ride, and this is like a long-standing. I think I might sneeze.
Wow, massive! I'm impressed.
Yeah, that's kind of my standard sneeze. So back in the day, two kids who used to work for Algonquin Outfitters at the Portage store in Canoe Lake decided to challenge themselves to see if they could get to Brent and back without sleeping. There's Algonquin Outfitters in Brent as well. And it is a massive, massive challenge. And the guy was saying, or Brent was saying, that the current record holder sneezes a lot, and also was some old guy, I think meaning like a 38-year-old, who had done it in 36 hours. And so he thought that he and his buddy would be able to do it in a shorter time after having been out working in the camps or in the park for 2 years. And he told the park general manager that they were going to do it. And the park general manager, who's a woman who had been doing a lot of outfitting her whole life, just looked at him and said, "No, you're not." "We are. We're going to do it this weekend." And she said, "No, you're not." So Brent and his buddy set out, and we're somewhere in the middle of the night in something like Catfish Lake or Burnt Root Lake, with a map, a compass, and a flashlight, and decided they weren't going to make it. But he swore to his greatest testament that he would break the record, and one day his name would be on the wall as the greatest ever canoeist to have made the run from Portage store to Brent and back. And we wished him good luck, and both came to the independent conclusion that that's never, ever, ever going to happen.
Unlikely. I think it's something like 120K or something, right?
Yeah.
Right. So to do that in 36 hours is just insanity. Just insane. I guess you're traveling light though, right? You're just bringing food. So.
You're bringing some energy packs. Yeah, and you have to do 12 hours in the dark or like 10 hours in the dark. can't stop.
Yep. Nuts.
But yeah, this campsite was not bad. It had a nice landing area. We got in fairly late because we had planned to be at our other campsite at 6, and so luckily, you can see, yep, it
Still
was
bright. We got some light for setting up, but by the time it was dinner, it was dark, right? So.
And chanterelles greeted us here at the campsite too. So we had a gigantic mess of chanterelles.
Speaking of which.
I maintain I did not step on them.
No.
Campsite. Dinner on the doorstep. There's more over here.
This was also a steep climb up, though, to get to the campsite.
Very, very.
Oh, did you step on those?
I may have. I can't.
We'll blame the other people.
But yeah, there were older ones as well that we didn't pick, but just in general, we had a fair bit to begin with from that last portage, and then this topped it off to a really big mess of chanterelles.
Yeah. And evidenced by the frying pan here, right?
Yeah, and it was a little unfortunate that the thread in my my stovetop had not worked out as well, so it ended up de-threading. We lost the thread, and so I fried them up, but we didn't have the full throttle of the gas, and so it took a long time to fry up. It was like over an hour preparing and frying, and they weren't quite as crispy as the last.
Delicious though. I have no reservations about the mushrooms that you cooked. They were fantastic.
Another, if we go back one before we, that's fine.
Oh, this is just me showing you preparing them in the dark before.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big mess. It was good.
It's a mess of them, yeah. I love how you're really in your element when you're picking and preparing mushrooms. This is something that resonates with your soul, it seems, when you're in the woods.
Yeah. Just like I said, having to live off, or getting to live off the land. Look at that fantastic tarp. And this perhaps was the most challenging tarp hang because of the openness. That one corner was probably
this one
30 meters away.
Yeah. 30 meters, you think? Maybe
20.
Yeah.
Definitely 20, maybe not 30.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long way away.
Yeah.
Did we have to tie 2 ropes together for that one? Was there one that we had to do that on?
I think we rearranged.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we took a short one off one corner and switched it to the other.
And so, yeah, this was a nice campsite. I thought I would go night swimming, but it turned chilly that night, actually.
It did, and there were a lot of crayfish.
Yes. So we played with the crayfish more than anything else down by the water there.
That was it. When I got down by the water, I liked putting the light on them and trying to get the minnows to come in, and right, I'm like, here he is. I chased him around for like 20 minutes like that.
And then the other thing on this campsite was that I set my tent up just a little too close to your tent. So
yeah.
I woke up at about 3:30 a.m. and Scott was sonorific,
sawing wood,
on some wood, and we were, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 feet away in my campsite, my tent and your tent, and that just wasn't enough for me to get back to sleep. So so I had to, after trying for 45 minutes to get back to sleep, I got out, I de-pegged, I dragged it over closer to the trail to the Thunderbox and re-pegged, and fell back asleep in 10 minutes. So
yeah, nice.
And now we know the distance that tents need to be apart.
Scientifically proven.
Exactly. And that's a nice picture of you going after your dry pack there.
Yeah.
So that was chanterelles for dessert because of the blue top not being as steady as we wanted. But that was a big mess of mushrooms.
That was a delicious mess of mushrooms.
It did, I think, probably because the sheer size, and now that I know the chitin, and that did they moved through us pretty quickly.
Yes, it did. There's a reason they call them thunderboxes. But that was our last night in Algonquin, and it was a lovely day with another fine story on that day of finding a bear in the woods.
Who knew?
Who knew? So it turned out that because we were so far down the river that the last day, which was only to be a half day anyway, turned out to be super short.
Yeah,
I think we were out by lunchtime, right?
Go back up to the map for a second.
Oh, I've got it on the next one here.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, so essentially we cut that day not really in half because the portages are a little bit slower, but more than a third of the last day we did, right? And that last day I think I'd mapped out for 3.5 hours so that we would, or not more than 4 hours, so that we would be able to get you on the road to get back to your loved ones. So it's definitely a big chunk off of it, and yeah, we ended up just having a leisurely morning, and yeah. So
yeah, we didn't stop for any fishing or anything en route.
We did see future canoe champion Brent Murray one more time, or actually a couple more times here at the portages.
Mm-hmm.
He was an earlier riser than us, so we saw him pass us every morning as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we climbed in the morning and started off down the river, I started to take a video, and that's what I got when my camera died. So that was the end of my travels or my camera work, because the battery pack that I carted with me the whole way for this event was packed away in the canoe bags, and there was no way that we were going to pull over, unpack everything to find it, and then repack everything. So alas.
You can't really quite see here, but as we were saying, the campsite's really high up on a bank, but it was a bend in the river. So you got to see out into kind of the clearance up the river a little bit into where the Nipissing came from. So it was a pretty nice...
it was, and we had a bright moon that night as well when we were there. And again, the river was really calm. It was a nice flow all the way down. I think this is down around here somewhere. I'm not sure if this is before or after the last portage.
Not sure
But when we got out here, it must be before, because when we got past it, this was all sort of like grassy, marshy, reedy type area.
Absolutely. It's kind of as it says, marshy bay, and I bet that bay used to be much wider and is just filled in there.
Less marshy. We finally started to run into people down this way. We passed what looked like a couple families before we got out onto the lake where there were more people.
Yeah, they were probably doing day trips from the Brent campsite. So there's a non-backcountry campsite at Brent as well, car parking and car camping, and so people do day trips. But we passed Brent there, and he didn't catch us back up, so not bad for two old guys.
Yeah. Suck it, Brent. I kept expecting him to catch us, but he didn't, so he probably stopped the fish on the way out.
I don't know. He didn't say so when we talked to him at the.
That's true. Yeah, because we did see him back on the beach. Yeah.
So he came about 20-25 minutes after us, and there, yeah, it was as you can see from the pictures, a really nice day. Mm-hmm. One of the nicest days that we had. So it was a crying shame to pull out that day because. Yeah, we got to we got to Cedar Lake before noon, and it was very, very calm. So Brent was worried that he had heard stories of Cedar Lake whipping up and that the crossing can be bad with his pack boat. And the original weather forecast was for mixed weather with some thunderstorms. So he was kind of worried about that, but nothing of the sort. It was just not much in the way of waves at all. And we were really now a canoe team, and the crossing was true as true can be. And we pulled up into the Brent camping point at around 12:30, so almost exactly 4 times 24 hours later.
Yep. Which is excellent time for that route.
Yep.
Yep.
But not rushed. But yeah, there you go.
Not rushed. That's the important thing. So for me, I think if you took 8 days to do that, you're really not doing a whole lot of canoeing, right?
Yeah, I think you have to essentially be doing double portaging.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be built into it, and you have to take at least 1 day where you don't do anything. You stay at the same campsite. Otherwise, you're going awfully slow.
Yeah, I think so too. Because with what we did, it's to me going into it, it sounded like a challenge, but after a couple days, it felt fine. It was nothing too strenuous. I didn't think, other than Unicorn Hill.
And that's according to Jeff's map here, essentially exactly 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
So
our timing was bang on with Jeff's map, more or less.
Yeah, we definitely didn't push it hard, and we could have beat that timing, as we know from trying to go ass hard when we had
Across Curly Lake, yeah.
or when we had to get to the next
or the Bear.
Yeah, like from there to there was like an hour, right? So we see that we can boogie when we need to, but we didn't need too much. Mm-hmm. So I'd be comfortable with a route that had us 6 hours a day. More than that, it's going to be a tougher day.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, I think that was an excellent 3-hour summary of our trip. But it was a fabulous trip. I would certainly do it again. And I look forward to trying other treks through Algonquin at some point with you in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be great. There are routes I have my eye on for our future trips together.
Excellent.
Just
make sure I have a month or two notice so that I can go jogging.
It's important because you try to do that without conditioning, or you can be in some serious trouble, and you start getting injured a little bit, and the whole thing goes to
exactly. Don't do that cold, and I mean, you need to pay attention. You don't want to roll an ankle when you're 2 days from Brent.
Yeah, and I was, there was some small chance of being able to do it, another one, but before it got too cold. But that's just not happening this year, unfortunately. So we'll have to do it another year when I'm not doing stupid amount of work, whenever that will.
Well, that's name of the game, I think. So you need to find the time to get away and relax a little bit. But certainly end of August was great. Flies were low, temperatures were good, right? Yeah. I can't imagine having to do that in 40-degree weather.
Well, we don't get 40-degree weather very much in Algonquin.
Oh, fair enough.
There is a difference in the temperature between you and us. That 6-hour drive that you do
is north. Yeah,
north. But it's the flies. If you try to do this in June, you will have flies over you the entire time, just the entire time. So,
yep.
So yeah, end of August, beginning of September is the best time.
Nice. Cool. Well, I guess with that, we should wrap up for the evening.
Yeah.
Thank you
Enjoy
for taking
your
time to check through.
interlude later, and I think you'll probably have to compress the video because it'll be a long ass video.
Monstrous. Well, it is 4 or 5 days worth of stuff that we've spoken about as well.
Yep.
So I'll trim it up, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
See ya.